Glowing Up Latina, minisode number 4.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Glowing Up Latina.
Hello.
Hey,
I'm Christina.
I'm Amanda.
And I'm Liana.
Oh, you guys, we are back officially, which has been very exciting. We hope y'all loved Wednesday's episode. And we're very excited to bring y'all this special episode of our interview with Latinx Therapy founder Adriana Alejandre. Latinx Therapy partnered with Breyer's Ice Cream to create the Conversaciones Vainilla digital toolkit to spark conversations that offer a moment in time for Hispanic families to get the inside scoop. And thankfully, we got the inside scoop with Adriana in our interview, and we really hope that you guys enjoy it because she was so fun to interview. She's so nice, so sweet. We loved it.
Yeah, we enjoyed it. We learned some new tips. I'm going to be taking that toolkit and hanging it up on my refrigerator because now, you guys know, I live with my significant other. And, I'm going to need a reminder once in a while how to approach things. So I'm going to go to my refrigerator.
I think it was nice to see that, we talk about it, in this podcast and, together and stuff like that, how the trauma or, the boundaries that we've experienced. But it was nice to see that she also had experienced those things. And it's, more of, oh, so it's not just us three. Fantastic. And it's, rather, this whole community that needs something like this to bounce back off of. So it was nice. It was really cool. I learned a lot, so it was nice.
And we hope you guys enjoy this interview. Hi, Adriana. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to have you.
Oh my gosh,
Hello.
I'm so excited to be here. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome.
And how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good today, thankfully. It's Friday.
And almost Halloween.
That's right. Yes, I am gonna be, I'm gonna try to be a sexy cucaracha.
Oh, that's cool.
That is so
I
exciting.
cannot wait to see that one. That's an interesting costume.
We'll see. If it's not sexy, then it's just cucaracha.
So we wanted to start off with, you telling us a little bit about yourself, about your story, kind of where you got the idea for Latinx therapy.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So, there's different layers to my story, but where I got the idea to create Latinx therapy really came from a place of a lot of pain and struggle. At the time, I was recently licensed as a therapist here in the state of California, and I found myself really lonely in private practice and not knowing where to refer the extra clients, really, that I couldn't fit into my schedule. And I didn't think that it was fair for them to even be on a wait list, or for a lot of them, it was their first time reaching out for therapy. And so I felt that frustration for them. I didn't know where my colleagues were, if they even existed. I really felt like the minority in the field. And so I had the idea to create first a Facebook group to see who would join as a Latinx therapist. And it definitely got a little bit of traction in the beginning nationally. So that was good. And then afterwards, I was like, it's still not fair. It's still not enough. I wish that, I could also have some sort of media, like some sort of audio or YouTube, where I can just provide the link to my clients and they could learn not just from me, but maybe from others. Because nothing really on TV was representative of the culturally congruent work that we were doing in sessions. So that's also where the podcast idea came about. I was really shy at that time and super introverted. And so no way was I going to do a YouTube video or channel. So that's where I was just like, okay, I'm going to take 6 months to study what it is to launch a podcast. And that's exactly what I did. And upon launching it, Apple reached out and put me on one of their biggest features on iTunes at the time, Apple Podcasts. So it went viral, and I had a lot of people sending me messages saying things like, I didn't know I could choose a Latina, a Latinx therapist. I never thought of it before. Can you connect me? So From all of those messages, I was trying to still find referrals online and I was burning out. So I created the directory to help out.
Full disclosure on my end, I've actually used Latinx Therapy to find myself a Latinx therapist. And it was, it was such a great help, honestly. And it was so inspiring, your story. And I feel like we here can definitely relate to it because we did a similar thing when we were thinking of the idea for this podcast. So it's just really crazy how something, I guess it's like a negative, like exclusion, can be an inspiration for something that turns out so magnificent, so great. But could you tell us a little more about your partnership with Breyer's Ice Cream and, you know, what you're hoping to achieve through this partnership?
Yes. So this partnership with Breyer's Ice Cream is really special because, you know, it's a brand that I grew up with. My siblings and I grew up eating this ice cream. And so it's really full circle for me, for my inner child as well. And what I think that, you know, the reason why I chose to partner with them is because of how intentional they're going about the message that we both want to relay, which is to destigmatize mental health and to not just mental health, but also like taboos, misconceptions in multi-generational households. Breaking patterns, things that are passed on from generation to generation that isn't necessarily available, the information for it in English or in Spanish. There's the toolkit, Conversaciones Vainillas, that we created. I haven't really seen anything like it in literature or, you know, just on the internet. So that's why it's been really special for me, because the mission is to bring about this education that is missing. There's a gap in this, in knowing what is it like to speak to, a younger generation about this taboo topic, for example, therapy, right? Or about childbearing expectations. What is it like to also talk about that same subject with the older generation? How do you go about it? And so we really laid it out in a format that's pretty clear, but also very flexible per household so that people can feel safe to talk about it. Because these are very, you know, they could be challenging topics, but the toolkit is there to sweeten things up a bit.
No,
That's so cool.
It's amazing. So,
So
but you
cool.
said the toolkit and the Vanilla Conversaciones, you know, it does give you like a nice breakdown of how to approach certain questions and situations, especially going back to the childbearing, right? That's always a question that comes up immediately, after being with the significant other for some time. And it's always, okay, so when are you going to start having kids? And it's just like, didn't realize that we're going to go off into that topic. So it's great to, how to approach that and have those conversations with family and friends.
Yeah, because they come up. It's inevitable in gatherings. And I think it's culturally embedded, right, to talk about these things because we come from a collectivistic culture. And the thing that we're missing, though, within our culture is the skill set of setting boundaries, because some people are too passive and then some people are too aggressive. So I use my training also to embed those boundaries within these templates and within the entire toolkit.
It's so interesting. Like, it made me think about like all the conversations that I've tried to have with my own parents or like my own family members. And it's like, we could be watching something on the news and they'll have a comment about it. And then I use this as an opportunity to be like, well, maybe it's not like as black and white as you think it is. And like you try to counter them and try to make them think. And sometimes it doesn't work out the way I hope it would work out. But like, it's good to have like those kinds of like tips and something to like kind of bounce back to say like, okay, I approached it this way this first time, but maybe if I approached it like this the second time, I'll have different results. And maybe I can actually have a conversation rather than just being like, no, this is how this and this and this are supposed to be, kind of.
Absolutely, yeah. We bring up open-ended questions and approaching people with curiosity, right? Because I think for some reason there's also a lot of blame that happens in our culture where people get also very defensive quickly. And so, this toolkit will hopefully also soften that. Again, the key word is sweeten it up, and will provide people with those, teach people ultimately with those skills of how to ask open-ended questions and how to be curious, because I genuinely believe that once we are curious, it does build compassion and understanding towards someone's position. And it could be due to lack of awareness, lack of education, high stigma, or even past traumas about the topic.
Now, I'm hoping that maybe you can give us some examples on what it was like, or what it would look like to, sweeten the conversation. So I know in the toolkit, it mentions like, taking deep breaths to like calm your nervous system, because it is really important to go into these difficult conversations, very like, for me, I feel like I have to go in neutral, because if I go in like very emotional already, like it doesn't set up for like a productive conversation. So what would it look like for someone to maybe like calm their nervous system before having these difficult conversations?
I love that question too, because we all have our nervous systems, and our nervous systems respond differently. They get activated differently. Some of us are more so in fight or flight mode. Some of us stay more so in freeze mode. And, I think we need to learn how to activate the rest and digest mode. Like let's just chill. Let's just digest this information instead of going into that fight or flight mode. So how we activate it is, one of my favorite ways is to learn which one of your 5 senses is your most dominant one. So, we have, I don't have them fully memorized, but bear with me. We have sight, smell, hearing, touch, and taste. All right. So we have those 5. And, if you start exploring them, they're within yourself. One of them is bound to interest you more, is bound to relax and soothe you more. And so we can pull and strengthen from that nurturance and make it into our own customized coping skill. So for example, if it is sight, what you can do is maybe do some activities like find 5 different shades of green, just where you're at, right? Different shades of green. And that brings you back into the moment. From there, you're able to help yourself even further, because it serves like a big restart button. Now you can take a breath. Now you can give yourself a little bit more direction, or you can engage in more of the sight activity, something else. Find 5 different things in the room with your eyes, track them down, right? Doing breath work, like diaphragmatic breathing, belly breathing, is also another way to activate that rest and digest, to help your nervous system be in the moment and just kind of calm yourself from any event. That could be very helpful. So whether it's inhaling for 4 seconds, holding the breath for 4 seconds, and then exhaling out from the mouth for 8 seconds. That's something I teach to all of my clients. And once they learn it, I have them, kind of change around the seconds to see what suits their body the best. Maybe it's more, maybe it's less seconds for each. So those are some strategies besides meditation, what we typically hear about, right? Whether it's guided meditation, interactive meditation, those could be other techniques that people can use before they enter these conversations.
Wow, that's so cool. While you were saying like the senses, I was like, what's the thing that really sets me off? And it's just like sounds. Like if I'm like having a very emotional conversation, like any sound kind of just like really sets me off. So I'm going to try that, like looking and finding something to like bring me back to the center to see if that works for me.
Yeah, and I have my oils here. Oh, you can't see it right there.
Yes.
I love those.
We love essential oils. Rub it and you inhale it, and just yes, we love the lavender scent just to bring you back to
Eucalyptus does it for
normalcy.
me.
Love it. Love
Eucalyptus
All
is
of
where I'm
them.
at.
Yes, I need them all at all times.
Yes. Yeah, but that smell for me is like one of the like my heightened like senses where I do like to turn on my humidifier, put in the essential oils, and then just let it just do its thing and then just be in the room. Liana, one year, she got that for me for Christmas, like some essential stuff, and there was no turning back. She just got me right away.
Yes. Yeah, they're perfect.
Yeah, I think sound is mine as well. I know like I can like if there's a lot of like noise happening, I can get very overwhelmed and then like wait, I need 1 second, let me step into a quiet spot. Rain sounds I love rain sounds. That's what does it for me.
That's so interesting. I do not like rain sounds because they make me want to go to the bathroom really quick. So yeah, for me, it's very challenging as a therapist when clients prefer that sound. And so I have to really harness a lot of self-discipline, which is something I'm trained in and continue to practice. So it's an interesting balance. It's always a balance.
That's exactly.
And then your area of focus is trauma-based therapy, correct?
Yeah,
And
that's right.
I saw because I was doing just some prep work before our interview, and I know I'm going to get these letters wrong, so you'll have to correct me. But the approach that you use is EMR. Is that
EMDR?
EMDR. Okay. Could you describe a little bit what that is for us, please?
Yeah, so it's a mouthful, just disclosure right there. It stands for eye, like eyeball, eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing. We're going to keep it at EMDR, okay? And what this modality is and does, it really helps through bilateral stimulation, so left and right movement, whether it's of the eyes or of the hands, so bilateral meaning it crosses, and does left and right movement to help the brain heal whatever target, whatever topic you have chosen to process with your therapist. So, for example, if we said, I want to process my anxiety that I have from cooking, I'm just throwing that out randomly. My anxiety with cooking, that is your target. And from there is 8 protocols or 8 phases to this approach. I'm not going to go through every single phase, but basically you take the target, what it is that you want to desensitize from, help yourself heal from, and then the therapist will help you pinpoint it. So now we find the image. When you think of the worst moment of yourself with your anxiety with cooking, what comes up? So it could be either an image or a sensation in the body. So, I'll say it's myself with the spatula stirring. That's the worst image. And then from there, the therapist will ask, when you think about that, what is it that you believe about yourself? A negative statement that I am unsafe, let's say. And then what is it that you want to believe instead when you're cooking and you experience anxiety? That I am safe. And then you rate it on a scale of 0 to 10. You rate it on the positive one on a scale of 1 to 7. The therapist will ask you where you feel it right now in the body and what emotions are also coming up. And then you begin the stimulation, the left and right movements. So it's a very powerful approach that helps not only with trauma, but also anxiety, grief, body image issues. There's a protocol for addictions as well. It's a very powerful approach for different things.
Oh, wow. I feel like one of the strategies that gets talked about the most is cognitive behavioral therapy, which is what I've been most familiar with. But yeah, that's really interesting. So the next step in the toolkit is approaching conversations with curiosity. And this one I thought was really interesting because it's trying to understand our older generation and why they have the belief that they do. And, it's no secret that our older generations, like their beliefs can be rooted in racism, sexism, difficult conversations to have with people who sometimes can be like stuck in their ways. So what do you suggest for somebody who is trying to, have a difficult conversation with their family, but their beliefs are maybe just not, where they think they should be, or not modern to today's society?
Yeah. And this is happening so often, right? With politics and all sorts of, different perceptions that are completely inappropriate, really, and for many dynamics. And so, first things first is that you have to make sure that you're safe, not only emotionally, but also physically, right, with the person, because there are some family members within our culture that may respond physically when there's disagreement. So we want to always be sure that we never give these tips like to absolutely everyone without any disclaimer. So always make sure that you are safe in all senses. And then when I think we have to realize that this is also a process that isn't overnight, and these conversations have to continue happening if we want to see change. But we also have the right to not continue these conversations with that person and set different kinds of boundaries if it's looking like it's just a dead end and they're just sucking your energy. And it's just kind of, you're losing sleep over it, you're uncomfortable around them. I think at that point, it's really important to set different kind of boundaries. But, people will likely be more receptive, again, using that approach of learning more about their perspective, having that curiosity, and where maybe if you ask, may I share about my perspective with this, right? If it is a conversation where it's mutual, and maybe even like if both parties decide on some guidelines, when is it best to cut this topic, cut talking about it? For some people, they set off time limits, like, okay, let's only give 10 minutes for this topic because we know how we can get about it. And I don't want to, be on, I don't want this to get into the negative territory. So I think people should approach this when they're safe, with curiosity, and then also knowing that it's going to take multiple conversations. It's not just one.
Yeah, I think that's really important, like, takeaway from all of this is like, it's a process. It's not something that's going to happen like tomorrow or even tonight. Like, it's just something that people consistently have to work on together. And it should never be a one-way street. Like, these conversations need to happen mutually, like you said, and they need to happen in a safe, positive environment. And, setting those boundaries are very important because, you don't want to get yourselves to the point where it's like, I don't want to see this person because they believe in this and this and this. So
yeah.
And I you mentioned to maybe like come back to the conversation, that it's a continuous thing that's happening, and which I really like the third step in the toolkit, to like pause the conversation if emotions are getting too heightened, because I'm a very emotional person, and I sometimes, if I'm having a conversation about a topic that I feel very like passionately about, I'm like, hold on, wait, let's stop, and we'll come back when everybody's like chill, level-headed, and then maybe we can like do some actual work like towards the point we're trying to get to together, or the place of understanding we are trying to get to together.
Yeah, absolutely.
We all want to make sure that we're validating our feelings and coming from a place of I, as opposed of you're making me feel this way, you did this. It's more of like you said, see it from my perspective, and from there the person can understand where you're coming from, how you feel, because it's important to validate your feelings and come from a place of I, because you're also recognizing how you're feeling, and you want the other person to understand that as well. So again, a balance, a mutual understanding.
Yeah, that has to be emphasized. And what came to my mind as you were saying that is that these conversations can't happen when people are in scuffles, or there's already tension or something like that. Because on one of the topics, for example, it's about self-care, right? And in our culture, self-care is seen as very selfish, and it's just for lazy people. And so if, you know, you're trying to bring that up for someone, and there's already tension, it's just going to probably go in a negative way. So making sure that we pause and we pick up this conversation when both parties are in a neutral or positive space, mood, and then using the I statements, as you said, it's extremely powerful and it leads you into more effective dialogue.
And then previously you had mentioned that, you know, if maybe the conversation becomes unsafe or it just kind of looks like you're not going to have, you know, the person you're talking to meet you at a mutual level, that, you know, boundaries are a really big thing. And, you know, earlier in our first season, we did an episode on setting boundaries. And I know something that kept coming up was feeling like guilty or like shameful, because a lot of these times, these difficult conversations, and they're not happening with strangers, they're happening with people you're close to, your family.
Yeah.
And we're taught in our communities to love our families no matter what. But as we've learned, you know, sometimes it's better to love from a distance. So what advice could you give someone who's, you know, dealing with feelings of guilt or shamefulness when it comes to trying to set those difficult boundaries?
I would invite that person to reflect on how boundaries have been helpful for them, and also on what would happen if they didn't set these boundaries. So there's kind of like a pros and cons list that can be created out of this. Boundaries are there to help you conserve emotional energy and to prevent further hurt from happening. And I think we also have to remember that our family members or loved ones that we're trying to set boundaries with may not reciprocate or understand the boundary right now because it's new. And people sometimes don't like change, but that doesn't mean that change is bad. So for example, when we talk about the discipline, right, with parenting, there's an example here. If I were you, I would spank that child for what they did to you. You're the parent, right? And we have to break that cycle. Just because it was normalized before to do that, it doesn't mean that that's a healthy pattern that should continue. So same thing with boundaries. We have to recognize that you're the, you know, you're carrying the generation over your shoulders, and it is heavy. All of that guilt is representative of all of the pain, maybe of your lineage, of the people that weren't able to set boundaries in your family. And it feels very, very lonely as well. But ultimately, you know, I think it's also important to find community, people that are struggling with the same thing, because we are not alone. We all, you know, especially first gens, are going through this with boundary settings. It is extremely uncomfortable. You feel it in your skin. You think about it a little bit too much. It just feels everywhere, you know, mind and body. And so, you know, finding people that can relate to you about this is also powerful, because community care is something that heals more sometimes versus even individual care. So that, you know, independent self-care. So again, it's about finding that balance and then reflecting on ways that, you know, make you feel comfortable setting your boundaries.
So this toolkit that, you know, we'll link in our show notes for everybody who wants to take a closer look at it. Did you develop this toolkit with somebody at Breyer's, or was this something that you kind of had and then tailored towards once you started to work on this partnership with Breyer's?
Well, there was a collaboration call where I understood what it is that they envisioned, right, for the message, and then where I also brought in my ideas in this call. And then I set some time to create the chart essentially that is in there, along with some bullet points of points that I thought would be important, like the guidelines, right? To sweeten the conversation, we want to calm our nervous system. And then the second step is approaching the conversation with curiosity. And the third is to end the conversation on a positive and sweet note. So from there, they also, I submitted that, and then they also pulled other things together within this toolkit. So it really was a collaborative effort.
You know, this toolkit that you have created with Breyers is just, I think, phenomenal. And I think a lot of people will be able to take from it and apply it to their lives.
It's amazing. No, yeah, it's amazing. It's a wonderful breakdown. I know that maybe, thankfully I have a mom who growing up didn't shy me away of wanting to speak with a therapist or get, growing up during my teen years. So I feel like looking at the toolkit, I feel like this is something she would have definitely like hung up on our refrigerator as a reminder of this is an open space, this is a safe space, and we can talk about things. Like I wish I had this like on my refrigerator during my teen years, because I know this is something my mom would have definitely just cut out and left it there on the refrigerator. So this is wonderful. I just love this. I'm beyond myself even reading it, and going just the whole breakdown. It's beautiful.
Thank you. It's definitely beautiful to see it all come together like this. And I want people to notice from this toolkit, especially with the chart, where we have the examples for therapy, for religion, for parenting, and all of that, money, is to notice how the sentences are short. Because I think something we tend to also do as a community and collective is sometimes we want to people please. So we tend to rant on and try to be perceived as nice when we're setting a boundary or talking about a difficult topic. And then the whole message gets lost. So speaking with whichever generation it is, sometimes shorter sentences when you're first starting off with conversations like this are very helpful to keep you just on track and concise and to the point.
I love that idea. Guilty of that. I will literally just rant on for hours on end and forget what I was talking about from the beginning.
I've been there. Yeah, I'm passive, so I want to be seen as nice.
Yeah.
We totally feel that.
So I guess, to kind of round us out a little bit, I was curious to know, in your work as a therapist and through Latinx Therapy and through this partnership with Breyers, what are some of the positive cultural shifts you've noticed among the Latinx community?
I think there have been many positive shifts within our community, thankfully, and I believe it's because of accessible information like this toolkit, this Conversaciones Vainilla that we created and collaborated on. There genuinely is more information compared to the 90s, right? When our parents were growing up themselves as parents. And I think people are sharing more so about their mental health stories on social media. We got to give credit to social media because it's been a huge tool to destigmatize and help people hear one another out and feel less lonelier. Now, the numbers are still, especially because of the pandemic that we are still going through, the numbers are still really scary, really high for depression and anxiety, among other things within our community, especially for age ranges of 18 to 24. But I still see that our community is breaking that taboo of it's not, como lo digo, like they're breaking the taboo of allowing people to heal through therapy, not just through religion, because I think there's more services becoming available and our community seeing more Latinx therapists online, they're becoming a little bit more curious and motivated to even allowing their children to go to therapy, maybe not themselves, but their children. I've seen that also in my practice where they're like, you know, they never approach therapy because they didn't really see anybody speaking Spanish. So it was never of interest to them. But now they're like, well, at least my kid can go. I don't want to talk to you, but my kid can go. So there's been, I think those are really huge positive strides for our people, for sure.
No, I would definitely agree, because I know when I first started to seek out therapy, I was nervous to talk to my mom about it. And, you know, she had never given me any indication that it was something for me to be nervous about. But still, like, you grow up in the Latinx community. So you grow up thinking like, "Oh, something wrong with me? Like nobody else seems to be having these problems. Like, why am I having these problems?" But it was nice to see the religion in there, because I always used to tell myself like, well, you know, or what is that phrase that people say? Oh, God gives his hardest battles to his strongest soldiers. And it's just like, oh, sometimes I don't want to be strong. Sometimes I'm not strong because I don't want it.
I don't want to be a soldier today. I'm great.
Yes. We cannot separate religion yet from our culture and community. I think it's going to be, you know, something that's embedded and we'll always have to talk about. But I do hear also that some, ¿cómo lo digo? Like some, I don't know if it's like religious houses, like Catholic and Christian churches, they are talking about mental health now as well within our community. So I find that to also be another positive, you know, positive stride for us.
It's great to, like, you know, like I think places of worship they're spreading the word, not only just about religion, but, you know, also letting their community know, their parish know that you can seek mental health this way. You know, I think that's great. That's fantastic. Like, we tend to, like what Christina said, like we tend to get the two mixed up and intertwined, and sometimes we do lose ourselves, or our families tend to just go, well, just pray and you'll be fine. Yes, that'll be a part of me and my, you know, working things out, but that's not always the solution. You know, we need the professional help at the end of the day.
Yeah, that neutral space where someone will also respond back to us, right? Where it's not just us in our mind, we need to get it out. You know, and with this question, I also want to share, because this toolkit is focused on multi-generational homes. Another positive thing that we're noticing is that the younger generation, the millennials, the Gen Zers, are also carrying a lot of the fruits, I think, to our labor. They're really also paving the way to just being open about boundaries. Like, they're roaring and they are fierce and they're very admirable. Like, I really appreciate that generation for what they're doing with mental health. Like, they are talking about their therapists. Like, no way would millennials and Gen Xers, you know, it was because of the stigma, you know, it was just much more difficult for us to just casually say, my therapist said this and this and that and that, and be comfortable with that. So I think that that's another positive thing that we're seeing, and it's helping other generations to accept and normalize.
We really thank you for coming on the show today and, you know, sharing this information. It's so important. And the toolkit will be linked in our show notes for anybody who wants it. Please click on it. It's very helpful. And like Amanda said, stick it on your fridge.
Yeah, I didn't think of that actually, but I am going to put it at my office. The toolkit is available in English and in Spanish, which is super cool.
Yes. And lastly, I do have to ask, do you have a favorite flavor of Breyer's ice cream?
I like cookies and cream. Cookies and cream, everything. Cookies and cream. Vanilla is good too, but I really like cookies and cream. What about all of you? What ice cream flavor do you all like?
I can go back and forth.
Cookies and cream.
Oh no, I battle with like strawberry and pistachio.
Oh, I do love strawberry.
Yeah.
I'm at cookie dough. Cookie dough ice cream is where it's at for me.
Okay, fine. So I had to be the one that's not part of the cookies and cream club. Okay.
No,
No,
cookie
mine
dough.
cookie dough is the one with the dough pieces inside.
Oh, you said cookie dough. Sorry, I heard cookies
Yeah.
and cream.
Cookie dough.
Those are all good. Well, thank you all so much for having me. It was such a joy and really fun speaking with you all about a topic that I'm really passionate about.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Adriana, for your
you.
time. We appreciate it. This was wonderful. All this
Thank-
information is just, yeah.
I learned so much. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys, what was y'all's favorite moment from the interview?
Ooh, I think maybe not the favorite part, but it's the part that like stuck with me the most, I guess. It's like when she was talking about setting boundaries with parents, like when she was talking about how she like feels it in her skin, and I was like, oh my God, it's like an out of body experience. And I'm just like, I felt that before. I think that part stuck with me the most, because it's like it's so true. It's just like those things that you just experience, and like it's good to know that other people have experienced that as well. So yeah.
I think for me, I guess like a moment that stuck with me was when she was like that you have to figure out like what of your five senses, like what is your like trigger. Because like I've never really, like when she was talking about it, I was thinking like, oh, mine is like definitely noise. Like I get very overwhelmed very fast by like my surroundings, and like I can see a lot of like busy things, but if I hear like the busyness coming from it, it like messes me. So that was like a really cool thing, because now I get to explore that with my therapist.
It's funny that she said that rain wasn't like her thing. Like she doesn't like the sound of rain. I kind of do, but it was funny to hear that she doesn't like it, and it reminds her of other things, like using the bathroom. The entire experience, just having the interview with Adriana, it was just inspiring, because it's wonderful to see someone else who looks like us, who has the same goals as us, and getting the word out and letting the community know that talking about your feelings, go to therapy. It's not a taboo. It shouldn't be seen as shameful, or why you letting someone else know of your personal life or issues that you need to you should be solving on your own. You don't need to go ahead and tell someone else. So I like that we continuously try to reach out to the community, and she's doing a wonderful job. All the tips that she gives, like on her Instagram page, just the whole entire thing. This interview was amazing. Like I left this interview so proud of her. Like I'm sure that people are proud of us, like listening to us and enjoy what we have to say, but I am proud of her for recognizing that in her private practice that she was working for, she wasn't able to reach out to all of her patients, so she found a way to not only reach out to them, but also like just the Latinx community. So I am very proud of Adriana for what she's doing.
She needs
a round of applause.
Yeah, and to bounce back off of that, like she's such an example to like us and to like other Latinx people like in the community. Like she left her job, her secure quote unquote job, started her own thing. Now she has a partnership with Breyer's. Like what? Like that's insane.
And then she mentioned when she was just starting her own starting Latinx Therapy, that Apple reached out to her to feature her.
It's great. It's a great resource, and we really hope that this episode has inspired you to check in with your mental health and have those difficult conversations. And we want to extend a very big heartfelt thank you to Adriana and her team for helping us get this interview set up and get everything going, and everybody at Breyer's Ice Cream who was integral in getting this interview together. We are so thankful. We are so happy to be able to bring this to our listeners.
Yeah.
And you can find Latinx Therapy on Instagram at Latinx Therapy and online at www.latinxtherapy.com. And you can find Adriana on Instagram at Latinx Therapist. And in our show notes, of course, like always, we'll link these Instagrams. We will link the digital toolkit in English and Spanish.
But yeah, guys, on that note, remember you can stream our first season wherever you listen to your podcasts. And our first episode of season 2 is out now. So please listen to that because it's a fun one.
And don't forget to find us on Instagram. Continue to like our posts and share your feedback and let us know how you're glowing this week by sending that over to glowinguplatina@gmail.com.
And remember, keep glowing.
Bye.